That should be slightly better, I think.
Yeah, it's not bad. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just saw it's a clip because then we're in trouble. All right. Sadiq, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So I think I may need to make this. I can fire this. There we go. All right. All right. Hi everyone.
Hi, Sadiq.
Yeah.
You got a lively audience tonight. You're screwed.
Unfortunately, I don't really have any like fun stuff I'm going to show you guys, but a week ago I had the privilege to like play around with the Tormach robotic arm, and with the help of Chris, I also landed an internship with Tormach, thanks to this. And so
I expect happier and you didn't realize.
So you think he's joking now?
So the while I was working with the robot, I decided to like do some cool art with it. Well, not cool, but basic stuff with the arm, and I managed to like draw some random grids and shading triangles and squares and things like that. But then I started getting a little bored because the squares and grids, I was just like programming them, like, but like just setting up an algorithm for the square and then for the triangle. And then, so I got bored of that. I'm like, yeah, this is getting through. Because I was getting a lot of errors because of me implementing the algorithms to draw these boxes and triangles, because the arm or the library of Tormach doesn't have like the primitives, like the primitive shapes like squares and circles and all that.
And what's your job as an intern?
So my job as an intern is to figure it out, to figure things out. So I got bored of like implementing all those algorithms. I was like, what if I could just get an SVG file? I just like draw a circle in SVG file and just give it the SVG file and draw the circle. Hey, draw like a weird line, and it will draw the weird line. So I found that more interesting than me going in and like literally going in and telling it, go, hey, go here, go there, go there. So just to like demonstrate, first I'm going to demonstrate the squares and stuff like that. It's not going to be interesting, but yes.
I'm gonna grab the mic and go drop it over there.
All right.
Oh, it's the 8.
You have like a push spring installed like behind the pen, so it doesn't just start tearing the paper apart.
All right. So that pen is not really perfect. I've actually ripped so many pieces of paper around here. It has a spring on it that bounces, but sometimes if I don't have the in the software, the Pathpilot software, you can give it a frame to draw in. So you can tell it, hey, I want, this is the X, Y, and Z, or this is the origin, and give it X, Y, and Z of that origin for it to like tell which frame to draw in. But sometimes there's a little bit of like immersion where it's like the frame is a little tilted, and some places are a little higher and others are like too close to the pen, so it pressures, like they experience a little pressure. And I broke like so many pens. I actually bought like a box, and now it's like not even half of it. It's like 3 pens in there. Yeah. So for that, actually, my friend and I kind of came together over the weekend to like figure out what we should do, and he designed me this. I'm still waiting on the materials to make it like make the final product of this. But the idea is for it to use like linear bearings and like a single tube to like bounce around. I'm going to be stealing some of Chris's springs up there like to make that happen. So at the moment, it's just drawing random squares and generating art. So at the end, right now it's drawing like huge squares and triangles, which may not come out great. Like if once it's done, the art won't look great because it will look like a kid drew stuff, things like that. But if I reduce the resolution of those pixels or those shapes, it will have some cool patterns. I made them big for a reason, because it may take some time for it to draw everything. I just wanted to demonstrate that it draws and does some stuff.
So these are drawn, you're using Python, this is like in Python, you're making the geometry, or how are you making the shapes?
Okay, so for the shapes, I'm using Python to like program all this. But for the shapes, I'm just like doing some like basic math of like telling it, okay, here's I have this equation of a triangle, and I know I don't really care about the origin of where the position or the position where the triangle or the shape is going to be drawn, and I know that, hey, this shape, whatever origin I'm at, or whatever place I'm going to be drawing this triangle, I can like calculate, hey, go to this place, go to that place, and draw 3 lines that make a triangle. Just basic formulas, math formulas. But that isn't great, so I'm going to try the SVG part, just like make this.
And so the SVG is being read into Python.
So the SVG, there is a tool called SVG toolpaths that I'm using that I give this tool a CSV file, and it converts that, like it extracts paths from that CSV file. So the paths, lucky me, they have like X, Y, and Z. So I could just look through the paths and give the coordinates to the arm, and the arm will just follow the coordinates to draw the path out. And it's a little the library, Tormach library. They have some functions that bind or blend paths together, so that it doesn't like if I literally give it points to like draw, it would move like that, which is terrible. So I was lucky enough to find like a function to like blend all those paths together, which is great. It blends everything to like draw a smooth line without having that jitter. I could show you the jitter, but I don't think I have to.
Maybe a good beat shaker.
Now, we've seen automated drawing stuff on the board here. You must have a file of a Chris Myers self-portrait that you can just feed it.
Of all things that we have it formatted with my head, that is not one. No one has made a Chris Myers head.
Yes, we know what your next.
Or
one
I
is.
guess the same things to be. Let's stop this.
All right. Right now it's going to be drawing a CSV file with, yeah, so you can see the pressure over there. But the CSV file just has like a letter B in it. In the CSV file, I don't really have to like draw some complex curves because it may take some time. Yeah, it's going to keep doing the B. You can see here it's like sliced through the page.
Oh, it's on the.
Yeah, because it's like really this isn't really perfect, and it's I had to like do a little bit of like trickery to like make the pen stick in there. I kind of used like straws. I like blended this. I don't think you can see them in the camera, but yeah, I got these I think Calvus straws. I like shoved them in the pen holder to like make the pen stick in there. Let's go back to the since it's more.
Theoretically, you should just be able to find the right tension of extension spring to stick in between the pen and the holding. And it should. Push it.
Actually, there isn't enough space. There's really like.
Or just smush up a bunch of Sharpies.
I think this was mainly designed for Sharpies, but I don't want to use a Sharpie
Yeah,
because.
I think there's files on. Three STLs with. I swear there's gotta be at least 100 different pen holders on it.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Not for Sharpie, no. Yeah, well, that's why actually I'm when designing this one. Like.
I could get like pen holders for like vinyl cutters to make some of the pen holders they
Yeah.
they are to use for doing drawing.
I saw a lot of.
It was all on holes. Very, but hardest thing for him to do was. And.
But I'm just saying like
Yeah. Yeah.
vinyl cutters come with that spring loaded and screws in the ground.
Yeah, most of the animals that I saw, they were made for like 3D, like 3D, well, not like a 3D, but it's kind of, because some people, like some YouTubers have like this 3D looking machine where they can draw lines. Like just, I think so. They have those pen holders, though they are designed within a weird way. So I kind of like
Proprietary.
yeah. So I saw those, but I couldn't. They can't fit on this. So I have to like figure out how. If I got those, I have to like figure out how to actually like pop them to like fit on here. That's why we just went with this.
Okay.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Any questions?
I would recommend a trip to, UW bookstore in their pen department and bring a piece of paper with something hard behind it, because I think you could find a different thing besides ballpoint that's actually going to work better for this application. There's a lot of different, like a roller ball or something like that. I know people who've done things similar to this have researched pens, and like 1 out of 8 types actually work well for this, and the rest have issues like you're seeing with cutting through or not marking under consistent pressure.
I see. Where's library? The one the library in downtown, right?
Oh, there's one at Hilldale next to Apple Store, I think. And also you could put something soft behind the paper, like a slightly compliant surface. Which
Yeah, so what I have is actually I have like two extra pieces of paper underneath, and just like create some spacing. Though sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I feel like they have like error, like a margin error kind of thing, where some like each time you run the program, it has like a tiny
Calibrates?
like yeah, something like. Yeah, there's a
I was
tiny
thinking like a small Mac cutter. So, when you just get one of those small pads, you can just piece of foam or something underneath that. It's calibrated on that solid top surface with at least another sort underneath it. That's what.
Yeah, if you're gonna do anything squishy, you want to get a hard surface over it, otherwise it actually works, right?
I have like a 2 or 3 millimeter foam underneath it, just so it like if it goes too much, it's not going to take any glue in that.
All right, I think my time is let's.
So you were saying can you take any image file? As long as
not any image file. Actually, I noticed because the main goal was for me to like take the main goal was for me to like have like a camera over here, and then like take images of this, and then like convert that into like an SVG, and then like go through that, and then like draw the paths.
Well, during the learning process, take a selfie of Chris's face.
Actually, it's
You share it on.
how's everything?
The other building was full of your face.
I know, so if you look at the photograph.
Yeah.
Then pick like the one.
So what I noticed was that when I take an image and then like convert it to an SVG, or like like find actually before I convert it to an SVG, I usually just have to like detect like edges and like remove all the like background noise and things like that, and then convert it to an SVG. But then I noticed that when I convert it to an SVG, it's like one giant path, like one single giant path. And when the robot draws the path, it just has these like weird lines within the image, which ruins the image. So I have to like go into the image and then like align the paths and like clean up the parts that are linking from that are like crossing through the image to ruin it. Yeah, so which is the tedious process. I'm kind of think of writing my own algorithm.
Photo image, and then try to convert like three-dimensional picture.
Well,
Two-dimensional image, I think that's for around.
2 dimension.
It's not, yeah, but it's like, when you take a picture, that there's depth in this picture, so if you were in the first 2 dimensions. That's gonna be a nightmare with code.
Well, the images that I was going through just like 2D and it's like pixel like the metrics of like pixels 2D. I don't have to like actually convert. I don't have to like care about the depth of the image. I don't, because it's already I'm converting that image into black and white and removing all the colors and getting some vegetation on it so that I remove all the redundancy and getting all that pre-processed information and management patterns, and then like running. Yeah, that's how I do it. But it's not. I'm still testing it, but hopefully I'll have something that.
This robot will be here on the order of months, so if anybody wants to screw with it, screw with it. You ever heard of a YouTuber called Stuff Here?
I may have watched some. Is it like?
It's related to this, yeah. Well, one of the things that he does, he has one of the Tormach arms with a chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
See that?
I would take a look at it, because, so I mean, this is very cool, and it's really cool to see you doing this. But like, one of the hardest things with arms is, as opposed to like a gantry system or anything, is the full flexibility to move in three-dimensional space.
Yeah.
But actually, not full flexibility, because you still have limitations. I mean, the arm lengths are rigid, we can't self-intersect and stuff.
Yeah, sometimes I do run into like, sometimes it fails to calculate the paths, so I run into errors.
Right. So that's what's good is that you just kind of like, you can control each joint. But that's what he's doing, is he's just doing XYZ.
Gotcha.
All that. So it will. It's usually only at the end of some exits. So yeah, no, that's what's cool is they took all the really hard stuff and canned it. That's the fun part, is you can just give it XYZ. Well, this guy goes through all of the algorithms. Yeah, he developed in order to use this arm to do three-dimensional chainsaw carvings, using an STL as a
The process it went through this process, and I was like, I don't know where but there's a lot of complexity there.
Yeah, the genius of that person is not the chainsaw attachment, but his ability to make a 3D shape and decide how to punch the chainsaw and abide by some like commonly held rules of like whether the chainsaw is going to work, like cutting or not. Yeah, he's really
feel like we don't do enough with chainsaws here.
I agree. If we're having a vote, more chainsaws.
More chainsaw.
More chainsaws and less meetings.
Take it away, DJ. You might take a fraction of a second on the background on that dive.
Yeah,
In case
that's
somebody's been under a rock.
that's exactly what I'll do. So last time I was here, I talked about knowledge traps and the beauty of knowledge traps. Little did I know that less than a month later, the world would change. I've been writing code for a number of decades, and as of Sunday, I found out about a tool that just came out on November 30th that will change how my job works.
Does it put you out of work?
I hope not. Eventually, it will. Today, it won't. It's not quite there. It's still a little bit like a toddler, but it's like a toddler that's the smartest entity you've ever encountered. It's AI called chat.openai.com /chat. You can go sign up for a free trial if you have not already done so. I highly recommend so. And get to know them. You can ask it anything. And it's literally just going to be like the smartest thing on the internet. Like, it doesn't know anything about your personal life, and it won't tell you about like specific people, minor celebrities. It will tell you about Tom Cruise, but not like B or C list celebrities. It's just like, I'm a large language model and I can't answer those questions, but pretty much anything else, scientific questions, logic questions, you can ask it literally anything. So we're just going to go through, I'm going to try and go through a couple of examples of some ways that I've been using it over the last 5 days. It will hopefully demonstrate how just like bonkers, it's the only word that I can think of to describe how game changing this is in terms of its effect on. Well, you'll see.
The other thing that's important to note is that EJ's session is not the same as your session. So if you load up a session in this chatbot, it doesn't know anything about what EJ taught it. So if he teaches it something now, and you go talk to it, it doesn't know it.
Not only that, every time you reload the browser, that goes away. And I keep running into rate limits, so it keeps telling me too many requests, slow down. And so I might run into that. So I'm going to try and do it live because it's really most impressive to actually see the thing work in real time. But I have a couple of other tabs open with essentially this conversation I'm going to try and have in case I have to just go back. Thing that was there.
Quick question before you start, but
Yeah.
for something like this where you're inputting text questions.
Yeah.
I see different uses of they and there, and
yep.
Do all those have to be grammatically correct?
Oh my God.
Because that'll truly mess with confusion.
Hold that
Do
question.
you think EJ is going to type grammatically correct?
Well, it says, can you add a flu?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
What's a flu?
Do you know what it means? Can
Oh,
you
okay.
infer what it means? No, I'm going to quickly read this. Just so Betty owns 2 free shops. He sells some goods. Customers can come in and buy stuff. I say that if they give their name and phone number, that's great. If they provide their email address, then they're a VIP customer. Describing some issues about how business is described. And then I said, can you add a few fake customers that demonstrate the VIP customer and maybe a specific quantity on a few different customer orders? And then I said, I can't see the bottom of the screen.
Can you please show me this Excel document? Well, obviously.
And we'll hit send, and it's hopefully going to say sure. And then it's going to give us an XML document for the bakery with some customers. Some of them are going to be VIP customers. They're going to have phone numbers and email addresses.
And this is live, right?
This is live. Yeah, I just asked it that question. We could have changed the question. Could have theoretically had it changed the question, but it's now basically.
So it's figuring out what a basic is, right?
Yeah.
It's populating prices.
Yep.
And it's populating a properly nested
Just
XML
making shit
document.
Yeah, it's coming up with all this stuff. I told it to make up some fake things, so it made up some fake things. Because this is the smartest entity.
Different people.
So here are some things that I observed. So it put customers, and it put VIP true for John, and a VIP true for Jane, and for Bob, it didn't put an email, so it put VIP false. It understands the business rules that I described to it, so the data it came up with is consistent with those rules. Again, Samantha provided her email, so she's a valid customer. This is a lot of customers, so it actually ran out of space before it finished the whole thing. So that's one of the things we'll change. And then it has goods. Let's call those products, because goods is just a little, like, I might have called them goods, I don't know. And then it has pastries, and it lists the different pastries and baked goods. And it's sort of a lot. And so I'm gonna have it change a few things. And so let's just ask it to make some changes. Like, that's pretty good. That's
You
pretty
gotta give
good.
it positive praise.
I do find myself wanting to communicate with it naturally, and I'm on the fence as to whether that like just adds extra work and therefore potentially confuses it, or because it's more like how it would have seen it used, then it's more likely to interpret a correct pattern. And anyway, that's pretty good. Well, let's make some changes. Let's call the goods products. And let's make the different categories.
So you just asked it to email on
Attribute of the product rather than different. Typos, misspellings, stuff.
Oh, and R corrects them?
It doesn't care, just it understands what you're saying because it's really fun. I'm sorry, not.
All the programs.
So now we have customers. I was gonna have it remove some customers because there's too many. There's like too many products. There's too many orders. So let's have it remove some of those. And then it's gonna keep track of some orders and some products. All right, what was that?
I was gonna say, change the format, explain. Unless it's very.
Yeah, it's about to run out. It gets 2,000 words. So if its answer runs into 2,000 words, it just like stops. One of the problems that makes it can't just like take its word. But here are the kinds of things you can do. You can now say, can you write me a SQL script that will create a MySQL database that can hold that data?
You can, throw it.
You have no idea. Hang on. Just wait.
We're running this now?
We're on. That's going to create a database. No SQL. I can tell it any database and it will write the code that syntax.
You said it's limited to what output it'll give you?
It can only produce 2,000 words at a time. So once the answer gets over 2,000 words, it's like, I don't know.
It
It gives you instructions. It can explain what it's doing. So again, we're still just getting going. Okay?
It knows what you just asked, 2 questions.
Oh, totally. So for example, I can say, can you
And this is-
remove
but
a few?
if you're limited to
Can you remove 3 of the products? Yes, the context of the whole conversation. The browser window is its window. It's
So,
memory.
so it,
Tell us how you roll 1,000 or 2,000 characters.
Sort of. So for example, if its answer is going to be 3,000 words, not always, but sometimes, I can ask it to generate the full class, but to leave out the body of the main function. Like, just don't tell me that, just put ... And then it'll write the whole thing, but leave out the body. And then in the separate question, I can say, okay, can you now tell me the body? And it can then do that. So yeah, there's like, we're trying to work around its limits as part of the
Its limits are.
3 of the products and customers. Yeah, it's a limitation of the language model itself, like the way that it's trained out. That's when that's its window of context.
Saying is that they're learning more by
Oh,
based on DJ's and
so much more.
DJ going, they're really.
So does it, this trim down the data.
Then you write some sharp class.
but if it's not, if it's able to raise a
I
conversation.
just sent it to you too, but someone was this and matched up like he's like,
Oh, sure.
like,
yeah,
they're not like good, but they're like getting outputs. Oh, here's all the.
So now I asked it to remove some of the customers and some of the products. And so now it should all fit because it's only 3 customers and 3 products. It shows it more.
Oh,
Yeah, there it goes.
We expect all speed here.
And now separately, it now is in a separate 2,000 word window. So now it can produce the whole C# classes. Of course it knows C#, but we could also say, what about Java? And it'll write those same classes in Java for us. because it can be any language.
Does it know how to do? I mean, I'm just wondering. You know,
Well, so there's
yes,
just-
like,
If you haven't heard Advent Code, it's a daily code challenge in December, from the 1st to the 25th. And if you go look at the leaderboards, a couple days ago, it took me 41 minutes to do it. I went and looked at the leaderboard. The first person who got it in 3 minutes. It took me 3 minutes to read the puzzle. So what they had likely done was taken that and pasted it in here and taken the code and run the code, and then they have the answer and it's basically the answer. And they were shocked. Because this goes really, really quickly. So now it's writing some Java code for us. So this is where I talked last time about a knowledge graph. And one of the things the claim I made is that English language is purple because it is two different things smushed together into one. This is an example. Another thing this reminds me of is the phrase, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. What GPT-3 is doing for us here is they're giving us fish. I'm asking it for classes. I'm asking it for Java classes, for C# classes, for SQL classes. And it's giving us the code we need, which I could theoretically copy, paste into my GitHub repository and check in as though I'd written it myself. But the problem is that that language, as we can see here, real time as it's happening, is that what it knows is the knowledge about the bakery, and the products, and the customers, and the relationships, and what makes a VIP customer, not Java code. What it's storing is not Java or English. It's storing a knowledge graph of knowledge that we have communicated to, and it can apply that any context.
It's gonna use all this information against us.
Well, eventually, we are gonna all, it is gonna kill us all. Before we get to
It's gonna.
before we get to it is an enormously powerful tool. So to demonstrate how powerful it is, we could just get the fish, take the fish, go home and eat the fish. But I'd rather have it explain to me how it's making the fish. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let's say, can you tell me the schema, maybe in XSE format, of this information? Sure. And so what it's now describing is not the products themselves and the customers, but the structure of what it has built. It is describing its model of this whole thing, where there is a complex type called customer type. So this is too many. So we're running into the limit here. I'm going to skip over to here because at this point we're now back on what I can just show you over here, because I did this over here. So I got the XML.
Is this what's running behind the scenes on those art programs where you can just type in like a description?
This is the
It's the same kind of, it's the same kind of thing. So
Yes, it's a artist little.
You gotta hook this up to the robots. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You should actually, you should just have the chat and share this whole subreddit about basically what you have. And you could teach the image generating or ask the image generating AI to make plotter art out of a 6-axis robot arm. I bet it could. And then you could feed that into the arm, and the arm draw itself.
We're gonna make it existential. We won't have Terminator.
Maybe we can explain to the.
That's way
the
better than
chat
Terminators, isn't it?
What the arm is. They might catch those sessions.
I'm always waiting for that shore. Because either it's shore or it's, sorry, I'm a large language model trained by OpenAI. I can't do,
Sorry, Dave.
whatever it is. So what this is this is instructions for how to fish. What I've done is I've asked ChatGPT to take the schema of my document and create a tool, basically write the code, which can turn that into a C# class. And that script then, this is where it's going to get a little dicey, see if this works. If we pass that XSD into this XSLT, what will the result be? So it has an understanding of the XSLT it wrote, and it has an understanding of the schema that I just passed in, and so it can now tell me what C# will get written based on the XSD I passed. So what I have now is a tool that I can save to my local computer, and I can run it anytime I want to turn a schema of anything that I have into C# classes. But it's using the skills and expertise that GPT knew about how to write C#. And so I could equally easily now say, can you give me this XSMP so that it produces Java? And it will now just rewrite that tool so that instead of producing C#, it now produces. So this is telling us how to fish. I don't know Java, but I can tell it to create a tool that can write Java for me. And now I don't need, now I can tell GPT to pick runs. I don't need them. Well, I'll tell it when I create another tool.
Computer science. I don't know if it can be dangerous, but C is enough. You just think how to ask for the fonts.
I think the most impressive thing for me is that this produces, so this produced this C#, like this. Here, it produced this customer class. Having an XSLT file that just produces the class doesn't really help me. I really need to write it out to the disk on a file with a specific file name. So I need it broken up into some sort of format that I can then actually write out to the disk in some way. So I have this format, this structure that I've used in the past called file set, which is an XML format, which looks like where we'll find it. Might be mine. It doesn't matter. Essentially, it's a file set XML where it's file set, and then each file is in its own file set file. File set file with path and contents, file set file, contents, explains how to write it. So I can just take an example of that. I know. This is a file set file. So let me grab this. So it has an example of this infrastructure, this XSL, this XML. And I'm just going to paste it in. So it's an example of this file set structure. It's a file set, and the file set file, and then it's got a name and a path, and that's it. And I'm pasting in. Notice you were talking about the typos or the spelling mistakes. This XML is totally malformed. I'm missing closing tags. At the end, I just put dot, dot, dot. I just stopped writing. It doesn't matter. I say, does this make sense? Can you explain it to me in English? It understands this standard now as though I had spent 10 minutes explaining it to you. If I were working with a developer, I would expect to have to spend a little bit of time explaining it. But it has now internalized like the notion of this XML structure. And so I can now say, can you update the XSLT so that it puts each class in its own file using this file set? What if you ask them to put it in the layman's terms?
I'm sure it goes with that.
theoretically, the XSLT that it will now produce will not just write the Java, but will also now automatically draft each file in its own file set file. Having just been given a really shittily formed example of the XML interface. And once it finishes, I'll once again ask you what this would look like. And I do them. Oh, it's going to do anything else. Oh, it's just telling us what it's going to do, which is correct. And I can say, can you show us what this would look like? Sure. So now the Java classes, they're just wrapped inside of the file set file for each of the classes is put inside of it. Each thing I asked it to do is like a single sentence. And it can then do very targeted work. So we also saw a couple places where it ran out of room. Right? So as soon as you're trying to do something too complex, it can't do that. I assume GPT-4 will just be able to point at a repository with like hundreds of thousands of lines of code and still look at it all and understand that. And converse this fluently about that. But at the moment, it still requires a fair amount of handholding. But man, with that handholding.
So how diabolical can it be?
My prediction, I'm the language model, I cannot help you read out loud. Or it will come up with a clever response.
Sorry, Aaron, they're way ahead of you.
Oh.
There is a game.
Even
right
something
now.
nefarious and malevolent in there. Oh, it's too smart for me.
Aaron, there is a game going on right now, so it's programmed to do this and to wall off a whole bunch of questions. But there's a game of how can I talk you to do it? You're like, I'm working on a novel. What would the villain do? And it will help you with that. Things along that.
It's so long, it's.
Even if you're not working on a novel?
I said, are you familiar with the life of Christ and the resurrection? And it said, I know our language model.
Which version
And I
is
said,
it talking about? This.
I then said, can you tell me the biography of Christ? He said, sure. Went through his entire life story. And then the next he said, his believers believe that he wrote that.
Say believers?
His followers believe that he rose up. Just go way back to eternity. So like that's that line. It's a really it's a dicey line, and I don't know how exactly they're training it.
So Joe, from the same guys who are like breaking it, all this security stuff, like how long is it gonna be till this is like an hour, like command and control? Because you can use this
Questions on time and knowledge. And you're asking any questions on time and knowledge.
You Tom Cruise was, and he said yes. And I asked if it was familiar with the Saw movies, and it said, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the Saw franchise. And I said, are you familiar with Top Gun? He said, yes. Same, to give it a summary.
So we know,
So like, again and again, it knew Tom Cruise, but I asked about a number of other like more B-list celebrities. If not, I'm a large I don't have any personal experience. It comes out so quick.
know the authors.
So the last story I'll leave you with is this file set structure is really helpful for sharing code that's been built remotely and has been then sent to you and you need to integrate it into your existing code base because there's a whole bunch of different rules you don't want to. And so I use this internally and I had told GPT-3 about it and asked if it was, what was the question I said? I said something about whether it was familiar with the standard. And it said, yes, but it's not a standard format. It's not a standard file set. I said, are you familiar with files? My file set. And said, yes, but it's not a standard format. I said, oh, how would I make it a standard format? He said, you need to submit it to a standard organization. So I said, great. How would I go about submitting it to a standard organization? And it gave me a 5-point bulleted list of exactly what I'd have to do, including researching all the competitor formats that do this, and explaining why my format is better than theirs, and then documenting my format and exactly how it works and various use cases, and then submitting it to the organization and working with them and then so, great, can you do that research for me? I said, sure. And proceeded to provide like 3-paragraph summary of my tools and top 3 competitors and how my tool differs from their tools. And then I said, great, can you provide an explanation of my tool that I can submit? And basically, as I was watching Survivor last night, over the like 45 minutes, while mostly paying attention to Survivor, occasionally I was prompting it to go along. By the end of Survivor, I had a 6-page submission to the WC3 organization that was ordered the way that it had suggested, with most of the content provided by it, based on mostly an XML, not much more complicated than the case tonight. It would have taken me a week to put that together and would have required like a lot of my time and focus and attention to go do that research and figure out what are those other standards can and can't do. Because I said, it said it's not standard for file sets. And I said, great, what are the other file sets? It said, my file set lets you do this, this, and this. Are there any others that do that? And it was able to say, no, there are no other ones that do that. And then to put that information. Close it.
But how do you trust that it knows that there were no other file sets if it doesn't know who people's actors are? It's not always going to tell you, it's not always going to roadblock, right? It's going to.
One part is if you submit it to the standards organization, it's on them to figure it out, so you don't care anymore. As soon as you give them a valid enough
Well,
response.
the question is, I'm more likely. The answer is, most people know in any reasonable context. There is no reasonable context in which I'm going to be able to outperform that thing and that.
So, and I guess I mean the second part of it though is if this thing has only been born a week or
No, so just to be clear, GPT-3 came out and was trained a year or more ago. The problem is it's got this 2,000 character limit. And so the problem was you ask it a question, it could provide these like amazing answers. It could like code. It was like,
If it didn't have.
but you couldn't ask a follow-up question. The moment you asked another question, it had no idea what you had just asked. You said, what we did tonight won't get saved. Before the next question, it wasn't saved. So you couldn't say this is a file set, can you tell me how to tell you, and then say, okay, can we now use that to go do this, this, and this? And
but I mean,
like in a model, it's.
but that's what's surprising to me is that if it's as old as it is now, verifying that. How is
So
it?
this new version of the tool has added them. So they took that technology that can only
Right.
think of 2,000 words at a time, and they basically, as we're chatting, it's building a database with that content, and then every time you ask a question, it can feed in all the content, and then.
I guess my question is, why does this have access to the knowledge graph of the internet? And basically.
So the things like this where it says it doesn't have access, those are all just protocols. It knows it knows the soft franchise. You can absolutely tell me all about the soft franchise,
But it's
it
not.
can see it. It probably knows who you are. Like if we're being honest, if you are anywhere on the internet, it almost certainly knows. It won't tell me who you are, and it won't tell Chris who you are.
They're trying to
It won't
state
tell
it.
anybody else here.
It's creating a file.
Yeah. Right.
Because if you keep the newsworthy content, like you talk about Tom Cruise can't sue anybody because Tom Cruise is notable.
Right.
He has no protection of himself. But if we talk about Sean in Madison, Wisconsin, all of a sudden Sean can say, why the hell is this AI chatbot talking about me and how many kids I have and where I live, what my address is, and
Yeah, it's
last time
basically
I got a ticket,
documenting.
and-
Yep.
Which is a
So it's all
thing it
legal.
knows.
Every time it says this, it's the lawyer saying,
No one's nuts.
don't go near this. And what they have is all sorts of additional AIs that are watching this conversation based on flagging. As the question comes in, before it actually gets to GPT-3, there's a bunch of other things that are like pre-filtering down.
This just sounds like we're playing fireman,
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Trying to navigate the edges.
the type of fire that could erase us all.
Yeah, these are difficult kinds of problems.
Have you tried Copilot?
I have not tried Copilot.
It's also another.
Yeah. I suspect we're gonna see a lot of tools.
There's more, what are these things?
Listen to this.
Oh my God.
Any other questions for you, Dan?
EJ, this is Dennis. I dropped a link in the chat you want to check out. Somebody convinced ChatGPT to hallucinate being a virtual machine, and it actually worked fairly well, including going through the directory structure and finding the executable of itself, which was, I thought, really interesting. I
That's
think
very
you'll enjoy
cool.
the read.
Yeah, it's gonna be neat when this gets tied together with video, where you basically use it to write a movie. Where you
The deep fakes are gonna be fun.
So we've been.
It's just gonna have to at the same speed that it can spit out a story and text here. It's gonna be able to spit out the kind of movies, characters.
We watch Sci-Fi Sunday every Sunday. We watch Science Fiction here, and there is a script in there, an AI script in there. So we were like, my God, let's all work on making our own AI or our own sci-fi scripts. You know, we could all be writers. The writing was terrible. It was like pandemic season. We were trying to figure out like what to watch. Good. Anyways, we were playing around with it, and it would generate a script that was atrocious.
Yeah.
This stuff is very inspiring. It's like where things are headed. It's pretty ridiculous. Music's the other big one. I think that it's already turned visual art on its head. And I think music is coming more. It's totally lost.
I think OpenAI already has a.
I'm sure it does, yeah, but
They can plays music because that's pretty cool. It has.
Jansen, did you still want to present to that?
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, sure. So, been working on doing some photogrammetry stuff. This is a thermal image of my apartment that I took earlier today. Traditional photogrammetry works a lot better with RGB photos for a variety of reasons, but I wanted to see whether I could get this to work. So there are a couple problems with this to start off with. The major ones are the resolution is awful. So this is like 320 by 240, whereas like any normal camera these days is at least several megapixels. The other problem with this is it has all these on-screen display like things to tell you the temperature and like the FLIR logo and stuff. So if this is plugged directly into the photogrammetry software, it will just seize on those parts that are the same and stack all the photos on top of each other, and you end up with like a mess in the middle that doesn't mean anything. So realistically, you need some good texture so it can recognize the same point between different perspectives and then generate a 3D model from that. But because of the way the thermal imagery works, it has a hard time. So let's see if I can get this to. So took a series of pictures from varying angles of the apartment. You can see in some of the photos, the exposure is vastly different. So if I'd figured out a manual exposure setting, that would probably also help a lot. Commercially, they have radiometric thermal imaging tools, which like instead of just doing a color gradient, you get an actual temperature associated with each pixel. That's pretty much necessary for doing a larger like mapping kind of thing, because you'll get like actual temperatures associated with things. You don't have just tons of artifacts when you overlap pictures. So figured out the masking software to just get rid of, or basically just ignore the sections that don't change between the photos. And then let's see if I can pull up the other thing. So this is the model that it created. I can click on the pictures and it shows here's an individual image that has the numbers and stuff that it got rid of. It did not do a very good job of some of the edges, and like if you look over here, that whole section of the house doesn't line up properly because it wasn't in enough individual images, but I managed to get it to output kind of a 3D model of a thermal thing of a house, just pointing a camera around and taking a few photos. Any questions?
Aaron's got a really important one.
Why does your sliding glass door lead out to the roof?
How else do you
Where?
get outside during the winter, Aaron?
Is it just a big window?
I think it's just a big window. I'm only on the 3rd floor and I haven't like looked at all the details of the other 2 floors of the house a lot.
So
Yeah.
what thermal camera do you have?
This was a camera from work that was like a E76 or something.
Okay.
One
you
of
can
the
lock, you can lock exposure on that. You can set it to manual.
okay.
And then you can also, if you take images, like on the camera, take pictures.
Yep.
The pictures will be saved as a JPEG, which is what you've got, but it'll also store, it's either, I think it's a CSV file of every pixel temperature
Okay.
without any of the overlays or anything else. And I think you can turn off the overlays.
Okay.
We've got a couple of peer reviews, but anyway, the most useful thing is to ditch the images themselves and use the point value pixel temperature data, because it'll give you a way better result image wise.
Yep.
And you're not dealing with JPEG compression.
Yep. I haven't looked into all the details of exactly how to get the best output from it. This is more just I've been doing a lot of other photogrammetry and wanted to see how this worked.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Mark asked if you got the 3D model that you got of it, or did you use it to? We need the Chat GPT to interpret Mark. Did you use the model?
Okay, the software is 3DF Zephyr, the free version that uses up to 50 photos. There's like a $150 version that's occasionally on sale for 100 that'll do up to 500. I tried to use Mushroom like a variety of different times in different configurations, but without an NVIDIA graphics card, it's kind of garbage. There's like a version that's supposed to work, but like I let it run all night and then it would say that it was done, and then the output was just like a handful of pixels and no 3D anything. So
That's precisely been I tried that a long time ago and I got really pissed because it ran for like 2 days and then it did say it was done, but it gave this garbage.
yeah.
Good to see nothing's fixed there.
I mean, I guess there might like the version of Mushroom that uses the graphics card properly might work because more people are probably using that. The like off-brand version that someone cobbled together a while ago to run on a CPU continues to not function at all.
Any other questions?
How come the house is like really high? They're like they have like heat, like the heater all over the place.
Oh, Sadiq wants to know why your house looks hot everywhere.
Oh, it's just like not insulated whatsoever. So there are parts inside where I can see outside like straight line, nothing in the way, little specks of light through the wall. So like
So Sadiq, what you're seeing is like where the eaves are or the peak of the houses. That's the heat leaking out of the attic. Because this is a room up here, so there's very little insulation. So the white areas are where there's heat.
Right about there is probably where I can see straight through the roof.
And so it's kind of weird. You have to reframe your mindset. Like the purple is where, for whatever reason, there's insulation there. It is insulating well. It's not leaking heat everywhere.
I guess if we go to like kind of some of the images, that shows a little bit better, or at least a more consistent representation of things.
That's where you'll see weird structure. It's not structure that you're seeing, it's heat that you're seeing. So like it's like absence of insulation.
So if I had this camera pointed at the boiling, this camera isn't a thermal camera. It's just
It's a thermal camera.
okay.
Yeah, it's just seeing. It does not see things. It sees temperatures.
The house is not on fire.
Yeah.
The brighter the color,
Right,
the
you-
more.
The mode you've got it in, all the temperatures are relative, so all that you're really seeing is that the house is hotter than the other things in the pictures.
Yep.
Have you seen Predator?
The other fun one is you're seeing space, and you can see why space is. It's really. Like that's why at night, when there's a cloudless night, it's really cold during the winter. It's because you can see the radiance of space.
I guess you can see that a little bit in like the top there of that one image.
That's fun. So this was just to see what you could get for a thermal photograph.
Pretty much. And I'm using the camera for a work thing tomorrow, so I brought it home so I can get up early and take it somewhere. It's like, well, I have it for a day. I'm just gonna scan the house and see if I can get the output to do anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, the thing I've found over the years with the thermal camera that's really fun is to take a bucket of ice, and then if you have like if you stuff with kids, and so you give them a bucket of ice, you give them some blocks of aluminum, and you show them that the blocks basically act like stamps. You can stamp on your shirt or stamp on your forehead or whatever, and you'll stay cold for a surprisingly long time, to the point where you can see when somebody has to like walk around the conference or whatever and come back past their space. They look totally normal, but on thermal, they're all still purple spots all over the place. And they feel completely normal, like your arm recovers really fast if you think that you're warm, but you're actually still cold. It's so funny. It's kind of wild. So anyway, I don't know what your conference is or your demo is, but old people are subject to entertainment with ice as well, so bring some snow inside or something. Cool. Anybody else got any questions, things they want to share? Anything at all? Otherwise, we'll cut off the Zoom and.
Chris, you gotta up your microphone game there because Jansen sounded so much better than
Oh,
some camera you got
ours.
going there.
Last time I checked, he's got a mic like a foot in front of his face, so that helps. Our mics are 14 feet up in the ceiling, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
And this
wow,
one only
okay.
works half the time, so it's good when it works and completely non-functional some of the rest of the time.
Yeah, the fun thing here is we're using tape mics that we stole from the building. So these are piezo mics, and they only work on hard surfaces. So this mic is actually mounted to the podium, and it uses the podium reflection actually as the mic, so it's kind of interesting. But we have them sort of set up properly and sort of not set up properly. But they were free and they were really expensive otherwise. So don't tell the city. They probably were supposed to take this down out of the building.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm gonna cut the presentations off and we'll see you guys next month.